All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Fnatic's Brush, the fan made podcast about Fnatic and all things LEC. I'll be your host for today, Matt Scott. And just to introduce myself a little bit, I've created this podcast now since beginning of the season in January because I wanted to talk a little bit about Fnatic, give a platform to the fans to share their opinions, and just get a chance to talk about LEC, which I've been watching for the past 7 years now. Well, ULCS, what it was at the back, and I've been a fan of Fnatic since then. A bit about myself. Um, Not much, except that I'm a hard stuck gold one jungler, and you should not expect much in depth analysis. This is just a fan talking from his heart, talking about the LEC, Fnatic in general, and giving a space for you guys to share your opinions about teams' performances, other team, how they're doing, your expectations, and have a little bit of an exchange here. The way it works, as you can see, I have, on right that side, a list of topics on which I'll be covering some of the subjects for today. So I usually cover LEC, some of the standout performances. Then we'll dash onto Fnatic, and I'll share my predictions at the end. And on each subject, I try to get people from the community to jump on board. So what I do is I am currently on the Fnatic Discord. If you want to jump on there, you'll see a channel called Community Podcast, on which are some people there. And I usually take the chance to get you on board, share one of your opinions about one of the topics, and have a bit of a conversation with you. So let's get it started here, right onto the first subject. So if you're ever interested to see some of the previous VODs, there's a YouTube channel inside Fnatic's Brush. If you type in those keywords, there shouldn't be an issue here. Talking about the LEC, the great start from Misfits going 3-0, and on the other side, SK going 0-3, struggling with their new team, and we'll talk about everything in between. We'll look in depth at Fnatic, the new guy, Adam, how well he's performed, and Bwipo's move into the jungle, and then talk about the predictions. So jumping into the LEC, those are the standings. I hope you can see this properly on your screen right now. But what it is that we have Misfits at the top, who very impressively did a great 3-0 game, 3-0 series on the Super Week, and then we have the 2-in-1 group where you have the top teams, you have the Rogue, the Mad Lions, G2, and somehow Astralis managed to get there, funnily enough. And then we have the 1 and 2 teams, which are more what we expected to be the bottom teams, and us, unfortunately. And then we have SK that's kind of struggling so far. So looking at Misfits, Misfits has had really some impressive games. I think really the standout performance here came from VTO, performing twice incredibly well on the Akali, which is a bit overbuffed. She's 7-1 this week on LEC, and I believe across like all major regions, she's got like a 66% win rate. So yeah, pretty high on the win rate here, and Vito has really, stood out for Misfits. I think Kobe as well had some really good performances, especially on his Tristana. But I think this is a sign of one of the teams that stayed together, who's not necessarily the top 3, top 4 team, but I think is going to continue improving because if you remember at the end of the spring split, they started, doing well. They had a bit of a dodgy mid-season, and towards the end, it felt like they were consolidated and going into this first Super Week, there seems to be a lot more synergy. Kobe, who was a bit disappointing, actually managed to play really well, in my opinion. Vito seems to be really gone another step above. So I don't know if it's the overpowerness of the Akali, but his Victor game was also quite impressive. So I think we have to consider this as well. Going obviously into the next week, Vitality is facing on Friday, so tomorrow. They are facing Rogue, so that might be a bit more of a challenge. We'll have to see if they're able to, beat Rogue and really stay at the top of the rankings. And then on Saturday, they will be facing Astralis, which, despite them being 2-1 so far, I don't think they're really a 2-1 team. They managed to do well. Obviously, they won against SK, who's struggling so far. It still was quite a bit of a close game. They got a bit demolished by Mad Lions, but then they went against Excel. So I guess they had overall some easy teams to face. Still, they managed to win. Facing SK and Excel had, I think, are the two teams who had the most debatable changes to their roster. Obviously, Treats moving from support to jungle. Jez is coming from head coach into the support position, which he did play while he was in Fnatic, and obviously he is a pro player before that. But I think it's still funny to see his his Nautilus game, where it feels like he's hooked more walls than enemy. Really, he was trying to escape the engages. So nonetheless, Astralis did well so far. Will they be as solid going into the next week? They're facing G2 and Misfits. Seeing obviously G2 is performing really well, and I think they're going to scale up into being really a brute force. Nelson, it feels like the addition of Nelson into the team has already done quite a bit for sort of the mental and the cohesion aspect of G2, and obviously Misfits being at the top of the standings. They'll be looking to prove that they deserve to be and staying at the top. So a bit of a challenge for Astralis to stay on that upper side of the standings. Rogue, Might Lions, G2, a bit of a triangle here. G2 actually managing to beat Mad Lions in a close game on the first day of the new season. Mad Lions then looking a bit more solid going forward. Rogue having a really close game against Vitality, but falling to Fnatic in what was an interesting draft from us, which I'll cover obviously in the Fnatic section. But still very, very strong, I'd say, upper part of the standings. And then as we look a bit on the second half, you have Schalke, Vitality, and Excel, and Fnatic. I was expecting Fnatic to go 1-2 personally. I thought they would win against Misfits and have difficulties against Mad Lions and Rogue. Pleasantly surprised that they won against Rogue, which meant that we didn't go 0-3, which I believe would have been a really, really complicated situation for us going into this week. If we win our next two games, we go 3-3, so it's a bit better. Looking at Excel has been really struggling, and it feels like the win is just because they drafted Akali. Like, Akali just feels like you win by default. Again, 7-1 record on the LEC. Even when she's behind, she just gets a couple of kills under, her score line, and then she takes over the game as soon as she completes the Rift Maker. Well, thank you for coming, So what it is right now, it's a bit of a complicated situation for Excel. Nukduk, while the good performance on Akali doesn't feel like it's necessarily an upgrade. Danik, same, compared to Torre. We'll see how they do afterwards. Schalke, I was expecting a bit better from them. Nuclear Int has some solid performances, but they weren't able to really close the games that we were expecting them to close. Um, they surprisingly won against G2 in a very convincing fashion. Um, you know, Part of it is that, again, they were the team who drafted Akali, and I believe Nuclear went like 7-1-7. Um, Literally took over the game. Obviously, good performances from Neon and Broken Blade, but it was really like, well, Akali's fed. Your game is over. Thank you for coming to the show. Um, but yeah, I was quite surprised that they didn't do more against Vitality. And obviously, they got surprised by Excel, who drafted the Akali. So they were victim of the better pick, it seems like. And they end on a 1-2 week. Going into the second week, they're facing SK and Mad. They might be going 1-1. So probably staying on that lower part of the standings. I'm expecting them to improve as they go forward, with Nuclear Int and Kire being the latest addition. So still be on the lookout. But small piece of information for those who haven't seen it. It's been confirmed that Schalke will not be there in the next season, that they sold their spot to the French organization BDS. So it'll be interesting to see where their players go afterwards. But we'll probably mention this once there's more official statements. Another surprise, actually, a bit of a disappointment, has been Vitality. I was expecting them to come in like all guns blazing into the first week, surprise the new teams. They only got one win under their belt, and I believe it was against Schalke. On their first day, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, they're so aggressive, they just go in every time." Litter's mechanics are really outstanding, which they are really, but it feels like there's like too much aggression and there's not enough macro. And then when they fall against teams like Rogue, who they had a very close game against, when it comes to the sort of mid to late game, Rogue's sort of better control of the map just took over, and the sheer aggressiveness of Vitality wasn't enough. So I'm not sure how they're going to go forward, because it feels like this pure out mechanical skill of their opponents is their definition. So maybe they have to add a bit more of that macro side to really be a step above on their opponents. Going into the next week, obviously they're facing us on the first day, Fnatic, and they are going against SK. So hopefully they go 1-1. They lose against Fnatic, but depending on how they play and how Fnatic plays, they could potentially get a 2-0 week. So and jump maybe more into sort of the upper mid table of the standings. And then obviously we have SK 0-3, struggling so far. I'm not sure if they're really going to manage to grab some wins onto the next week, as they're facing Schalke and Vitality. It's going to be really tough for them. It seems to have they have quite surprising early games, and they manage to catch some first blood, some good advantages, but it seems that they stumble very quick, as there's like no plan. And the identity seems to have really changed, where Treats, obviously still within the team and still within a sort of shot calling position with the jungler, doesn't have to seem to have the same impact. And I was wondering actually if, having Jesus, who's also known to have been in previous teams a bit of a shot caller as well, is there's a bit of a clash behind of styles, of profiles. And if that's maybe struggling in terms of their communication. So I obviously I can't say, 'cause I don't know if they've posted anything about their comms on their channel, but that could be a possibility. I still hope they do well, because they were an exciting team going forward, but who knows what happens really going forward. So that's a bit of the LEC standings and the results after week one. And this is usually where I open it to the audience. So again, for those who have access to the Fnatic Discord, let me know if you'd like to jump in, share an opinion. I'll unmute you there. You can find me in the community podcast section. I see there's already a few members on here. I don't know if let me see. I'm seeing some comments. She had like 100% LCK presence, so I'm guessing you're talking about Akali at some point. Don't know now. She still does. Yeah. She's a very strong pick, and I'm actually quite surprised she's gone through our game. Neither picked or banned on our last game of Fnatic versus Rogue. So yeah, quite an interesting one here. Thankfully, we escaped that, because I feel like if you put Larson, like already humanoid on Akali, that was quite scary against us. But I think Larson would have been another problem, and we could have probably gone 0-3. Thankfully, he went for the J. So thank you, Larson, for sparing us on that one. But yeah, let me see. Thank you, Fire, for sharing that, for popping up the Discord bot. But yeah, if no one wants to jump in, no issue at all. Again, this is your platform. This is your time, your chance to talk. There is no judgment, by the way. I'm as much of an expert as you guys are. I'm just talking as a fan. So yeah, no issues at all here. But if no one wants to jump in, no problem. We'll just move on forward with our next segment, which will be everything about Fnatic. Fnatic going 1-2 this week. Bit of an expected result, in the sense that their win actually came from their game against Rogue, where I think we expected it more to come against Misfits. Just to mention maybe a few players. Obviously, Adams, first game in the LEC. He's been solid so far, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but I was quite pleasantly surprised. His Viego game was, there wasn't much about it. I think there was a bit of an issue in the first game of communication and execution. We went a bit too far against Misfits. For instance, when we took the Baron, for those who have listened to the comms, Niski calls to go fight afterwards. It just goes against them, because they basically lose Baron on 4 people, and the effectiveness of Baron is basically lost here. I think it would be much better to just take the recall, reset on the map, and apply pressure on a maybe 1-3-1 or 1-4 disposition, and try to get some turrets, try to really increase our gold. What happened is that Akali happened, and she just cleaned us up, and we pretty much let Misfits get back into the game bit by bit. On the Mad Lions game, we had a good early game. Then again, Akali kind of happened. Bad decisions, bad moves from Whippo. His Udyr was... I don't understand the Ghost on Udyr personally. You usually want to go for the flash, for that flash bear slap kind of surprise gap closing. You don't really need Ghost. It doesn't do much, especially on the late game. You're not necessarily here to do damage. You're here to peel, stun, and it's a bit of a shame, because Upset throughout the whole game basically doesn't get his hand on a single kill. And you're talking about a scaling ADC with the Kog'Maw, and it was what do you call it? It was Hylissang getting the kills. It was Bwipo getting the kills, and they really don't need them. Maybe in the early game, it's like afterwards, give the gold to Upset, and it was only able to pop off in the late stages of the game when they were literally destroying our base. So yeah, a bit frustrating to be honest, because Upset had the tools to really shred the front line. He was getting those items, but it was too late at this stage. But still, I don't feel like we played that bad. We still managed to stay in the game as long as possible and catch them out. But yeah, a bit of a problem in the sort of early to mid game execution, and Mad Lions just took over. And finally, we go into our only win of the week against Rogue, who, I mean, again, the Akali completely misses the spot there, and we draft Karthus for Bwipo, which I think took everyone by surprise, especially with his TP smite. Usually, the sort of solo queue classic is to go with Exhaust. He doesn't really need Flash, but I guess the TP is a bit more of a tactical approach and more presence on the map. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the Adam pick of going Wukong. I can't remember if Whipple actually picked Wukong in the spring split. If anyone knows, please feel free to correct me. But I don't think he actually did. So yeah, that was pretty good, and it's he did. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, good scaling pick here, even going into a losing matchup against the Renekton. I think he stood his ground pretty well. Yeah, also want to mention Adam on the Mad Lions game where I'm seeing the solo bolo. He actually solo boloed Armut twice on his patented Olaf, so that was pretty good. That was really decent. There's for those who've seen the AMA from Fnatic a few weeks ago, I think Niski did mention that they were working obviously on communication with Adam, and that sometimes he's just like double, triple killing in the top lane, and they don't even know what's happening. And it's like, yep, he's just kicking ass. So that's pretty good. Pretty happy about this level of performances from a rookie. And I want to point out actually Niski, who had an insane Lucian performance. To be honest. Very strong in his lane, very strong in his rotations. Has forced like flashes and stopwatches. For me, definitely was the MVP of that game. Adam was given the MVP. Very happy for him to catch the MVP. I think it's a bit skewed because there's a strong French community behind it, so it's a bit like reckless, obviously. So I feel like when Adam will be in the equation for MVP, obviously it's gonna be biased towards him, which it's fine. It's great to support the rookie, give him that confidence and that support. Still, I think there should be a little bit of recognition for Niski's performance. I think he did incredibly well here. Definitely a standout performance throughout the 3 games during the weekend. He was pretty decent as well. His Orianna against Mad Lions, a bit more complicated, was a bit late on the rotation, so didn't have as much impact, but definitely redeemed himself on the Lucian pick. What else did I want to mention here? Let me check my notes. Yeah, I mean our bot lane's still staying pretty solid. Just not having. I'm thinking especially about Upset didn't have as much space for execution, especially with his Kog'Maw. When he has his Kaisa, like he can do whatever he wants, and he had an amazing performance as well against Rogue, where with Helisang they were able to catch out Larson when he was split pushing on the top side. And then obviously punish Inspired when he joined into the fight, and who else was it? I think it was there was 3 kills. Oh, I think they got Odoamne as well. Yeah, it was the top side, and then they got the 3 kills, and then they went into Baron. So that was pretty good. Obviously, the combo, Leona. Kaisa, very 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 solid. I just feel like we forget to kind of play around this bot lane who's been very, very, very solid already in spring. And from what's been told on in scrims, especially from Nelson, the assistant coach from the G2 who just joined the organization this year, um, he says he's compared them to Uzi and Ming in scrims. So obviously, scrims, live games, it's a whole different basket of of toys here, but it's still pretty nice to hear that the level that they were showing in spring is sort of being exponentially pushed into summer. So um, I think pretty much a majority of people recognize our bot lane as being one of the best, if not the best, in LEC. And I feel like there's so much potential to be a top team just through them. And as we consolidate our new jungler and our top lane, I think we can see some even more solid, more controlled games going into next week. Speaking of which, we actually have some really spicy games going into week 2, where we're facing Vitality. So we'll be going against the Self-Made, and I think Self-Made will want to prove that Fnatic made a mistake of not wanting to continue with him. I really hope that we manage to win against Vitality and I mean, not necessarily like prove a point, but still show that we're still solid with Bwipo as a jungle, and not only that, that we're still improving in our level overall as a team. As I mentioned in the preseason podcast, for those who were there, is that while I'm not expecting an insane start, I'm just looking forward to progression throughout the split and not have a roller coaster split as we had in spring, but really have like an upward scaling line of progression and see, Adam looking like a top 3, top 2 top laner. Looking at Bwipo really servicing his lane, really sort of unlocking our bot lane and giving them more impact, more agency into the mid and late game. Things like this, I think we can do them. I'm just hoping we develop well enough that we can see them and we end up, top 3, top 2 at the end of the season. So yeah, a bit of an overview of week 1 for Fnatic. Again, this is your time to speak. The stage is yours. So if you have any opinions on the first week of Fnatic, the Super Week, feel free to join me into the Discord. I am in community podcast. Don't be shy. If you don't like your voice, don't worry. I don't like my voice, and I'm doing a whole podcast on my own. You're just listening to me talk, and then I have to listen to the VODs to make sure that everything is well and dandy. So yeah, it's not great. Okay. Yeah. Just. Oh, I'm seeing Sir Kamarasa. Is that correct? If you're in Twitch chat, tell me hi if you wanna. I have someone join. I'm actually happy to have multiple people join. But I have this one person here who's joined in. I'll unmute you. Give me just 1 second. Oh, I've not done this properly. Have I done it? That should have worked. Try to unmute you, person who's joined me in community podcast, if you're able to do so. If not, it's weird because normally you should have been unmuted. Okay. Interesting. Right. Anyone else would like to join? Seems to have a little bit of issue here. If you want to join me in community podcast, you can do it now. That person has left. I think was a bit of a troll. I have Talion who has joined us. Cool. It should be working if you want to try it out.
Oh.
Yep. I think.
Hi.
Yeah. Awesome. How's it going?
Doing fine. I haven't really watched most of your podcasts, last ones, because it's it's the time of year where I have exams, so I can't really watch most of them live.
No
So
problem. How have your exams been so far? Have you passed?
I still haven't got the marks,
Okay.
but they're.
Feeling
I think
confident?
it's gonna be good.
Cool. 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 Awesome. Well,
Um,
fingers crossed.
thanks. Um, yeah, I would just wanted to share my opinion that even if we had gone like 0-3, even if we hadn't won versus Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
at least for me, I would have thought that it was still fine
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't really put a high expectation on this split.
Okay.
Like I expect to be fourth.
Okay.
I'll be disappointed if we don't at least beat Vitality because of
Mm-hmm.
course there's always the grudge matches against them because
Sure.
of self-made living.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have any bad feelings towards him. It's just that it's nice to
Sure.
beat former players.
Of course. Just like it feels good to be
But
reckless when he's on G10,
yeah,
right? Absolutely.
um, but what I actually hoped to see, seeing Adam fit in well and play well, because this was an investment,
Mm-hmm.
sending over self-made to Vitality and
Mm-hmm.
putting Whippo in the jungle. It was more about securing the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to see Upset, Niski, and Adam, all these players that have long contracts do well. While if Whippo and Healy do badly, well, their contracts run out and it didn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do well, then we can always resign them
Sure.
if the team does well. And
Absolutely.
I liked what I saw from Adam in all the games, honestly. Like even if he didn't 1v9 on Olaf, he still had uh, against against Misfit. He was playing Viego. Oh yeah, he had that weird build, so he didn't do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of damage. But besides that, I thought he played fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I was a bit surprised to be honest with the Olaf pick because, well, obviously, like he's known for playing Olaf really well. Within a sort of LEC, more like higher stakes situation, it felt like we're just picking his comfort pick and hopefully it works well. He did really well against Armin. It completely demolished him 1v1. And I feel like he was the sort of only member who was doing well in the end game, like going 1v1 against Akali. Like he was the only one kind of holding the doors for us. So it was like the rookie guy is carrying all these veterans now. So it was actually nice to see on that aspect. And I'm also, another aspect you've shared that I really agree on is the fact that he's looking comfortable on his first game, his first stage game, while he's playing within the Fnatic gaming house. You'll always have a little bit of stress of anxiety, I'm guessing, as a new player, but I feel like he fit right in, and that there wasn't that much of like a difference of performance between him and the rest of the team. On the contrary, when it was Olaf, is like if we win, he would definitely have been considered for MVP. I feel like because he was getting hard focused by Mad Lions, like they dove him so many times, but he was a bit of a threat. So it's a shame that we didn't use the pressure that he was able to build to try to put ahead our scaling bot lane, and instead we just kind of rolled over and died. But yeah, pretty good so far for Adam.
and yeah, about Adam's Olaf, I think I don't really like Olaf top actually. It looks like a snowball pick,
Mm-hmm.
but there are buffs coming, so maybe it's more viable in next patches, so it helps us because he always has pocket pick that few top laners have actually. It's
Mhm.
like him, Capo Shard, mostly French top laners actually.
Maybe that's a trend. Maybe we'll see SLT popping out the Olaf at one point for Vitality. Maybe they'll do it against us tomorrow. Who knows?
Who do we play this week actually?
So we play Vitality and I said it earlier on. We're playing Excel.
Oh yeah.
So
So
um, best case scenario, get a 2. Standard case scenario, we go 1-1. I think we to look solid, we need to go 2-0. I think we definitely have the tools to be Vitality. Excel is just looking in shambles right now, so I'd be very if we. I mean, no, I'm not even gonna say like losing against Excel cannot even be considered at this stage. So yeah, that's all I'll be saying on that aspect.
yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think I'll say goodbye and let other people talk. That Matt Choi, Camarasa is back, and Tokiko. There.
Tokiko. There's a lot of people here.
Yeah. So I'll give them the spot.
I mean, it's fine. Like, if there's anything else you want to add, feel free. But yeah, if
Well, unless Matt Choi wants me was asking me the question instead of you. Okay. Oh, okay.
what I think of it. So, okay, maybe we'll, yeah, you know what? We'll both answer that question. So for people who are not in the Discord, um, off topic. I mean, it's fine. I'll give it for you to you this time. But roster swap by DK. I mean, it worked. They're just too good. I'm just surprised by what's his name on damn. Oh yeah, on the benching of Ghost. But yeah, I guess it worked. I haven't followed LCK enough to know if Ghost has been doing well or not. But yeah, for me, he was like doing well during MSI as well. So I don't know. Do you have any opinions on this, Italian?
I don't know how rich Damwon is, but if they have the money for it, I think it's exciting the possibility of them getting a really good mid laner. Then you have Showmaker ADC, a really good mid laner, and then Canyon jungle.
Just by Faker did. It's that simple. They have that Kia money, so shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, because I don't know how good Malrang is actually, so I don't know how that will work if they keep the role swap for other games,
Sure.
or if this is like a one-time event to motivate a Ghost.
Could be.
So we'll just have to wait and see.
But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Matra. Thank you for the LCK question on an LEC Fnatic podcast, by the way. No, it's fine. Don't worry. No problem at all. I'm seeing another question. Opinion on Bwipo Jungle? So and so. His Rumble game was good in the early, quite impressive. Like, he got a triple kill at one point. His equalizers, like ultimates, were some of them were good, some of them were really off. For me, it just feels like what do you call it? Rumble falls off in the mid to late game. So when you're going against an Akali, like, you're not necessarily gonna build like resistances. You're just gonna build more damage, and yeah, he just kind of got exploded in the end. Udyr again, his ghost over flash. I don't know, and I believe like I remember watching his rune during the game, and I was like, question mark ping. I can't remember what it was that he built.
But I actually can explain the logic behind that
Tell me.
because but there was a lot of criticism of that on Reddit, for example, and then like all the analysts on Twitter were like mocking Reddit for having that opinion because
Okay.
basically the logic is that this was against Medlines.
Mm-hmm.
Medlines comp is all about running in,
Right.
so Udyr won't really have a hard time catching up to them, so he
Okay.
doesn't actually need the item of movement speed. I
Hmm.
don't not remembering the name. Camp tank.
Chem tank.
Doesn't need camp tank, and basically, um, with Conqueror and Sunfire, you actually do damage. So basically, they really have to target Udyr, and I think that's the logic that basically is drawing away attention from his carries.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's actually super interesting to know. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, this is just a hard stuck gold one jungler, even who like I used to main Udyr back in the day, guys. But yeah, that's actually quite some interesting insight because it was a bit weird, but I mean, it's not because he lost that it was necessarily bad, you know. But obviously, the criticism goes quickly when it's like, oh, you question the build, oh, you lose, then it has to be bad. Obviously, there's always a bit of logic. I think Bwipo, especially him, thinks deeply about these elements, and there's always, you know, he doesn't randomly select um, summoners or runes. And you know, look, going into obviously the last game against Rogue, where he, he played really well. I think Niski really enabled him with the mid lane pressure to help him farm as much as possible, and then become an outplay our button threat, especially on that last team fight around Baron. He was just like, I'm gonna deal damage to them, stand behind, press R, and absolutely obliterate 50% of their HP. Upset, ulting into the back line, putting as much damage, debating them with the stopwatch, and then Niski getting a quadra, cleaning up everyone. Very, very good team fight, especially against Rogue, who are known to team fight really well. So pleasantly surprised. I was a bit scared that Rogue might turn it around if we didn't execute properly, but Adam did well with the double Wukong ult to really disturb the whole structure of the team fight. Even if he was spotted, I think the whole team executed really well. So yeah, this I think the win against Rogue really gives me a lot of hope going into the next week. That we continue improving in terms of our drafting. So hopefully, you know, not letting picks like the Akali go through, especially against Litter, known to be very good again with assassin champions. So surely we pick it or ban it, but it would be smart to not let it go through. I'm not sure if we're going to see some other spicy picks like the Carthus, which for those who have listened to the voice comms that were published today, I believe, was actually a suggestion from Upset. So it's actually nice to see Upset suggesting it, and we're going like, fuck it, we're we're going Carthus. So yeah, very very happy about this, and very hopeful for the games going forward. I'm seeing that. People are saying Astralis World Champions. Sure, why not? Fnatic will win Summer Split. We can only hope. What else? What else? What else? G2 or Fnatic are looking stronger. We will see. I definitely think G2 is going to be a threat going into the next few weeks, and they will continue building on their success in the first week, even if they lost against Schalke. What can you do? A Kali diff. So yeah, you go next on those ones. But that pretty much sums it up for me. Oh, this is. Do you think it was a fluke? Han said it was more of Rogue making mistakes. I mean, it's a bit of both. Like the mistakes they made were kind of forced by Fnatic's moves as well. Like it's not like they gave us the game either. I mean, sure they had some poor execution. Larson didn't do like proper combos on his Jace, but even then, like we managed to catch them off because what's his name, Hylissang does the right rotation where Larson is trying to get top tier 1 turret. with what's his name, with Upset having Akali, not Akali. Yeah, I'm so traumatized by the Akali pick with the Kaisa ultimate, so he can just jump at him and destroy. Then inspired going a bit too far, but it's like he I think Upset and Hillisang were like pretty low, so he gets baited into wanting to kill them. Then the rest of the team joins in, and it's just, I mean, they make mistakes, but they're because we're making the moves to push them to make mistakes. So, um, I mean, poor execution exists for sure, but to say that it purely relied on them making mistakes, I mean, we'll see. We'll see on the second game when we face them. Obviously, that won't be until maybe another month or so, but still, I don't think we should undermine Fnatic's performance. They played the map well. They used the Karthus in a very smart way. I mean, the first blood on the top lane. Bwipo places the Wall of Pain perfectly to slow Renekton, and Adam actually has tier 2 boots, so it's very hard for Renekton to really get away from the Wukong who's faster than you, who has the E to gap close and then can just EQ on you and bang you. So, you know, as much as I love Hans, I think it's a bit unfair to say that it just relied on them making mistakes. Sure, they made mistakes, but these mistakes come from somewhere. They managed to win against Vitality, even though Vitality had a very strong early to mid game, and they brought it back into the late game. And they didn't do it against us. That's the conclusion I will make out of it. So yeah, definitely a better game than the first two. I think it kind of shows the path in which we're going to, and again, thank God we had that win in the end, because for me it really shows that there's some improvement being made. And for me, I'm really looking forward to the week 2 to see if we're really getting those how do you call it, those games, those wins, and those good performances to show that we're going on that ramping progress. Yeah, how scripted is LEC? I mean, it's, I want to do the sort of spaceman meme looking at the planet Earth. It's like always has been. The whole professional Riot circuit has been scripted. So yeah, very good in scrims. That's what I've heard as well. I slowly need to translate it, hoping that we get the most out of it. But yeah, I'm just rambling right now. Talion has even muted himself back. He's just had enough. But I'm just kidding. If there's anything you want to add, Talion, be my guest. But yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything. But Talion, any last words, maybe?
Really, just thank you for having me in this podcast.
No
Hope
problem.
that you can one day have Pete on this podcast, and then set me up with him, please.
I'll definitely consider it. I'll put it in my bucket list, podcast bucket list, and see what I can do for you. But yeah, thank you for coming on, Talion. I'm just gonna do the classic boom, boom. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna be moving forward with the predictions. Sorry for the other people who wanted to participate. I'm just gonna keep it short for this first time on the Always Fnatic Twitch channel. It's also getting a bit dark, so I want to make sure that you still see me before I get ulted by Nocturne here. But yeah, jumping into predictions of day one. I'm currently equalized with Fnatic community. There was some really interesting picks on week 1. I mean, what was the most outrageous one I saw from you guys? Let me just have a look. What was it? Yeah, Excel. I mean, it was actually very close, like 53 47% Excel Astralis. You guys voted for Excel. And then the other stuff, like the Mad Lions Fnatic, you guys voted for Mad Lions, but it's very close, like 55-45. Same for Rogue Fnatic. Yeah. But nonetheless, looking at this week, I think we have the same picks. So it's a bit of a straightforward week. Schalke over SK, Mad over Excel. I feel like Rogue Misfits could be a close one. Rogue kind of, faltering. Very close game against Vitality. They lost against us. Misfits looking really strong in their first week. Could go either way, to be honest. I was tempted to go for a spicy prediction and say, screw it, I'm going to vote for Misfits. But from a week to another, things change, and I think Rogue's going to come in wanting to sort of consolidate their top part of the standings. Vitality Fnatic, I truly believe we can take that one. Due to Astralis, you had your fun, but time to go back to the bottom of the bracket. If Astralis wins, I'll eat my words and I'll make a special segment about them next week. But yeah, please don't make me do that. G2, play your game. Going into day 2 of the second week, Vitality SK. I mean, SK is just looking really bad. I think Vitality is going to crush them in the early game. Misfits Astralis. Again, Misfits will be wanting to continue their win streak. Mad Lions, Schalke. I don't think Schalke is playing to that level where they can challenge Mad Lions yet. Mad Lions, even if they lost against G2, I think they did really well on their day 2 and 3. So they mentioned a bit of like burnout. I think now that they're going a bit more into the LEC rhythm, they'll be looking to show their MSI level. Bit of a drink. Thank you, Fnatic. Fnatic Excel, surely we take that one home. Rogue versus G2. I think G2 is just really strong right now. And Rogue hasn't been looking that convincing so far, even if they're at 2-1 score. I think G2 is going to come in way more solid into the last game of day 2. Actually, if you realized, Fnatic, probably for the first time in ages, is not playing the last game of the day for an entire week. They're the game before last on both of them. So I feel sorry for Selfmade, who is always complaining that Fnatic was always the last team, even when Reckless obviously had left. But that's it, guys. We're not the popular kids anymore. We don't get the last game. To be honest, it's good because it gets a bit tiresome to have to wait until 10 p.m. to see your game. I still watch like all the LEC games, so I'm not sure why I'm saying that, but still, yeah, it's still enjoyable. I don't know if that'll impact on our performances as well. It'll be interesting to see if like a slightly earlier game makes us play better. A lot of what have yous. Still, I'm a bit curious about this, but yeah, I think that's about it for our first always Fnatic. Wrong segment, guys. You saw nothing. But yeah, just before I close, I actually just want to do a couple of shout outs. First of all, thank you, Lydon, for helping behind the scenes from the get-go, helping this podcast really exist, and being able to actually do it on the Always Fnatic channel. So big thumbs up, big thank you here. I hope that we'll get the opportunity to do this every week and bring more of you guys on board. For the new people watching who've stayed until the end, thank you for watching a random guy just rambling about his opinions. I hope you like the format. If there's anything you would like to suggest, you can always put it on on the Twitch chat, or come onto the Fnatic Discord IFB podcast channel. I'm very interested to know what you guys think about it. Um, some socials on the side. Come uh, subscribe, or I should say follow the IFB podcast Twitter. It's literally IFB podcast. Very simple. YouTube VODs always available as well. Usually posted during the week. I try to. So if you enjoy the podcast, you want to catch up on some previous episodes, see the format, and yeah, and big shout. I don't know if he's there, but Curly, if you're watching whatsoever, he's the one who's upgraded the visuals for this. Like everything you're seeing, the different scenes, he has turbo smurfed it. And I just want to give him a massive, massive, massive thank you because the podcast has never looked so good and professional. He's done an amazing job. He didn't need to do any of this. He did it purely from his wholesome heart. So thank you very much, Curly. For those who know him, go say thank you to him. For those who don't know him, he also has his own podcast. He's from NA. He does it on FlyQuest. They have a beautiful podcast as well. There's 3 of them. They're amazing. If you want to give it a look, go watch it. I believe it's called Flight Crew Podcast, something like this. But very cool. In any case, guys, thank you for watching. I'll be seeing you next Thursday to talk about week 2. Let's go Fnatic, always Fnatic. See you then. Bye bye.